Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. I have got the biggest updates yet in the pistol brace saga. We've got injunctions, we've got mass non-compliance, all these things, but why did these injunctions have to wait until the very last day of the amnesty period? And what does it mean for all of us? We're going to talk about that today, so make sure you're subscribed to Sawtooth Tactical. So the ATF's compliance period is over. You can no longer register your AR pistols as SBRs without paying $200 for a tax stamp and doing it the way we've always been able to do it anyway. So, are we all felons? Not necessarily. There have been a number of injunctions now. First was in the Mock v. Garland case, FPC won an injunction, and after clarification, it turns out that that injunction covered FPC members as well as customers of Maxim Defense. Well, on the very last day of the amnesty period, we also got injunctions for members of GOA, Gun Owners of America, as well as the Second Amendment Foundation. So there are millions of people that are members of these three organizations, whether it's FPC, GOA, or SAF. And for now, and remember that this is temporary while the court proceedings go through, and they are going to expedite at least one of the cases, I think, by June 29th. So less than a month away. Hopefully we will have more of a permanent result here. But for now, people that are members of those organizations, of which I am one, we are covered. These injunctions mean that we do not have to worry about the ATF knocking on our door about us possibly owning braced pistols. But is that true? Is the ATF, how do they know who are members of these organizations or not? Do they have a list? I don't think so. And it turns out that out of up to 40 million people that own these things, only about 250,000 actually registered their firearms as SBRs under the Amnesty Form 1 process. 250,000, that's about 0.6% of the total number of braced pistols owned in America. That sounds like mass non-compliance to me. So I am proud of the Second Amendment community. But what does this mean for all of us? Are we covered? Can you go on Facebook and whatever? I'm not a big social media guy, even though I've got this YouTube channel, Instagram, whatever people post these things on. Is it smart to be posting pictures of your braced firearms? I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the ATF decides to enforce this or not. Like I said in a short earlier this last week, I feel like with all three of these injunctions, it kind of takes the teeth out of this pistol brace rule, because how does the ATF know who to enforce this on or not? It's going to be really hard for them to know. And I've also got a problem with our court system to an extent. Now, I appreciate these injunctions. I appreciate the judges in these lawsuits putting injunctions into place that go toward us, that benefit us. But why did it have to wait until the very last day before everybody technically became felons? That to me shows a major flaw in our justice system, because how many people felt like they were between a rock and a hard place right at the end of that period and decided to register at the last minute on the ATF's free Form 1, or how many people spent a bunch of extra money putting, a 16-inch barrel on their short-barreled firearms, or changing out their buffer tube for a smooth pistol buffer tube. I doubt that very many people actually destroyed their firearms or turned them into the ATF, But you never know. People will do crazy things when they feel like they're in a desperate situation. And I think a lot of that could have been avoided if, we'd had an injunction in place months ago. So why did it take until that last minute? I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal scholar, but I have been following this very closely. As you know, if you've been following my channel, I've been trying to update you guys every single week. The great thing, though, about these injunctions, and while we did not get a national injunction, which is what we really wanted, of course, because that would mean that everybody is covered. We did get injunctions for, and it's been clarified, all of the members of either the FPC, the GOA, or the Second Amendment Foundation. And these are organizations that we should be supporting anyway. And there are a lot of people that are members of them. And from what I am gathering, even if you join one of them now, you are a member and you're covered by the injunction. It's like $30 to join the FPC. I think $25 to join GOA. I'm not sure about the Second Amendment Foundation, what that costs, but it's very easy to join one of these gun rights organizational groups and gun rights organizations, and then, you're covered for now. And while that may not stop an overzealous ATF agent or maybe even local law enforcement where you live, I'm lucky to live in a place where local law enforcement is generally very pro 2A. I interact with these guys a lot at my local gun shop, Guffey's Gun and Pawn, and most of them are very cool and they believe in the Second Amendment and protecting our gun rights. But not everyone is so lucky to live in a place like that. And are you going to have to worry about your local law enforcement not knowing the ins and outs of who's protected by this rule and who's not? And are you just going to be able to show them an email that, a receipt you got from joining GOA, and maybe that means that you don't get arrested that day? I'm not sure. Hopefully, if you do get arrested, you'll be able to use that in court. But who wants to go down that path? That's a very expensive path. You will end up doing at least some days in jail, and then it's going to cost you money for lawyers. It's going to disrupt your life in a major way. So I would still tread lightly, and I don't believe in treading lightly, but just protect yourself. Do what makes sense for you. Try to be smart about this. Do your research, including things like watching this channel, because I am paying very close attention to this, and I will continue to update everyone as I learn more about it. Now, hopefully, through these court proceedings, this all goes away, and the ATF will have no authority to prosecute people under this rule. That would be really good. But what we really need to think about is the NFA and the GCA in general, and the fact that short-barreled rifles are regulated at all, because they're obviously not dangerous and unusual. If the ATF has said that, these have been SBRs all along, well, then that means that up to 40 million people own SBRs. To me, that says that they are in common use. And I think that the Supreme Court might agree with us on that. So if and when it makes it to that level, will we get SBRs off of the NFA? I sure hope so, but it takes a specific chain of events and the right case brought to the Supreme Court to make something like that happen. And unfortunately, and I'm guilty of this as well, because we had pistol braces, I think that a lot of people were complacent because instead of having to worry about, NFA items and registering short-barreled rifles, a lot of us ran pistol braces, and as far as we were concerned, we were running perfectly legal firearms. But we shouldn't have ever had to do this in the first place. That's the big issue. SBRs shouldn't be something that is especially regulated. They're not especially dangerous and unusual. If a handgun is a normal, unregulated firearm, and a rifle is a normal, unregulated firearm, then why is something in between a handgun and a rifle something that, takes all this extra stuff to deal with. To me, that's absolutely ridiculous, and I know it is to many of you as well. And this pistol brace rule has highlighted that fact for me, that, the fact that all of a sudden, we're supposed to register these things as SBRs and go through this whole rigmarole that we shouldn't have even had to for SBRs in the first place. And so we need to continue this fight. No matter what happens with pistol braces, we need to do whatever it takes to get SBRs taken off the NFA. And I believe that as well when it comes to suppressors. Suppressors aren't even firearms. There is no possible way that they are dangerous and unusual. And in fact, they are a safety device. All that they do, they don't silence any gun. All that they do is make some guns hearing safe and other guns just a little bit easier to deal with the sound and the concussion. They should be on everyone's guns, and you should be able to go in the store and pick one up instead of waiting between 8 and 12 months for one. I am 8 months into waiting on a suppressor for my 300 Blackout that I built a long time ago now. And I still have no idea how much longer I'm going to have to wait for that. I've paid for this thing, and it's absolutely ridiculous to me. So these are just some of my thoughts on the subject right now. But this pistol brace rule has highlighted things that I already knew, things that a lot of us already knew, but it just shows how ridiculous the NFA is already. And I think that that is a fight that needs to be taken more seriously from here on out. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. Please hit that like button, share the video, and leave me comments. All these things really help the algorithm because YouTube doesn't like gun content. So any interaction that you can do with the video, it helps the algorithm promote the video more, gets this kind of information and content out to more people, helps me grow my channel, which I really, really appreciate. So please help me out if you can. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.